So where this came from was from the previous user group meeting. So Alessandro presented the latest stuff in 10.2.4 and 10.2.5. And one of the things he talked about was orchestration query language. And I thought, that's quite useful. It's a completely different way of doing things. And I wonder what it can do and how good it actually is. Being a complete masochist, I thought, yeah, let's try it. So, orchestration query language. So, what is it? What can it do? Why do we need it? And then at the end, we'll actually see what it looks like. So, back in the good old days, we used the workload monitor to look at various things. And within the workload dashboard, if you drill down into different resources within the workload dashboard, you get the monitor, so job monitor, job streams, workstations, those sorts of things as part of the drill downs. And this is the way it's always been. So it's been a query that you apply, and then once that's done, you can apply a filter for the different pieces of information. And this is what most people do today, and it's fine. But the underlying technology for it is a little old, and so it needed to be changed. And that's where the orchestration monitor came from. So within the pull-down menus, you'll see in monitor and reporting in 10.2.4 and above, you've got the orchestration monitor. And that's a whole new interface. So we've seen already in Marco's presentation and various other bits and pieces that that's what it looks like. But we can use the same queries that we use within the job monitor, for example, within the orchestration monitor as well. So if you use that and using it, you can. But there is a new way of doing things, which is the orchestration query language. And it's the toggle on the right-hand side to then be able to use it. So it's telling the monitor, right, this is an OQL request rather than a standard query. So what are the resources that you can look at, or what are the things you can look at? So it's jobs, job streams, workstations, and resources. Resource. Those are the 4 different things you can currently look at using the orchestration query language. And what will happen is that when you put your OQL statement in, the stuff underneath will change. And we'll see that in the demo. So it is a whole new way of querying what's in your plan. So OQL was introduced as part of 10.2 FixPack 4. It's been enhanced in FixPack 5, so there's even more things you can do within it. And where you can use it is not just within the orchestration monitor itself, but also within the REST API as well. So you've got REST API version 2, and you can use OQL within that. The documentation states that you can use it with OCLI. You can't, not yet. That's coming in the future. So when you look at the documentation and it says you can use OQL with OCLI, if that's not too many acronyms for you, It's not there yet, but it will be. So it enables you to query your workload automation environment. So what it allows you to do is to work more efficiently, because within OQL you can start building statements that are related to, say, applications. So payroll application. If you know that all your payroll jobs are prefixed with pay, for example, you can create that query and then associate it with a name, and then just run the name from the orchestration monitor, and it will show you all your payroll jobs, for example. Now, whether you want to create folders and things like that, that's another way of doing it. But if you want to subdivide using queries within a folder, that's also a useful way of doing it. Most people are still using the root folder and everything's underneath, which, yeah, is another story. You need to get away from that, but this gives you a bit of a workaround.
You don't use the folders yet.
A lot of people don't use folders yet.
A lot of people
Because
don't.
that makes, well, because they need to rework the definitions. Right?
Yes.
Right.
I understand that it's a burden, but there's a lot of advantage in using that.
Well, one thing it'll take advantage is six, I think it's six. Like calendar names will go to 100 characters, but you have to have it in a folder.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, folders are really useful for getting over character limits.
all migrations we do, we put everybody's data into folders.
Yes.
Because it helps us get past some of the character limitations.
The job stream name is 16.
Well, and make it that way, the folder becomes part of the job or the stream or whatever object name, because that all gets inserted into the job stream.
Maximum folder name.
Or 800 or something.
Yeah.
800.
So there is
256 per folder.
Yes.
So people have written like little tools or help from a migration point of view that could be shared then?
Well,
to actually
no, on the
convert or
migration
not?
side is totally different because we're migrating from competitive solutions.
Okay.
But if you're doing it internally, I mean, you could export all your data, do a mass substitution, push it back in.
A brave thing to do.
It is very brave, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Do it in depth.
So you could do it. You could do it in phases, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there'll be things that will be a benefit. Like I said, calendar names, I know are going to 100 characters. So, but the only way you can access that is you have to put the calendar in your folder.
Okay. So as we talked about, you can monitor jobs, job streams, workstations, and resources. And it makes troubleshooting and performance much easier using OQL. It means that somebody of a more senior admin background can create it once and then assign it to other people to then just run. They don't have to remember all the syntax. They just click on a name and it does it for them. And we'll see how that works. Okay, so what does the OQL syntax look like? Well, it's three parts. There is the field, the operator, and then a value. So again, in this example, we've got job stream name equals daily backup. And that's pretty simple in that it's fixed. So we know the job stream name is daily backup. We're just querying it. And yeah, the value is case sensitive, as I found out. So very simple syntax, but you can then start creating far more complex versions using Boolean logic. So you can say job stream name equals daily backup and something else. So I won't go through all of these. These are all of the different operators that you have. So as we've just seen, job stream name equals, you have all of these, and then you've got the Boolean operators as well. And you can start using brackets in order to group things together. Square brackets are used for lists. So you can say job equals open square brackets, job A, job B, job C. So you've created that list. And the other thing to note is that if you use equals or not equals, the value has to be fixed. If you want it to be variable, i.e. use wildcarding, so just trying to move smoothly from one slide to another and completely failing, you have to use the like statement. So job name like payroll at, anything that starts with payroll will then be found. So if you want to use wildcarding, then you have to use like, not like, rather than equals. Again, I found that out.
The other way myself.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that it? Is that all the operators there are? Those two? Well, there's a few more coming up.
Yeah. So there's a bunch,
Yeah.
and these are all of them. And then of course you've got the order by as well. So once it's found, you can then say order by ascending, descending, all that sort of stuff. And that's how you create a more meaningful query. So some simple examples for each of the different query types. So where you've got job streams, priority of 101. Who actually does 101 as a priority? Who's ever done that? I mean, it just means do it now.
We used it on occasion, I think. My guys have used it.
Yeah.
Only when managing a stress situation.
Yeah, I was going to say it's normally in that stress situation that's probably happened.
So, yeah, you can query for that. Job stream names based on a fixed field. And then for workstations, active status is pretty important. So active status not equal to fully linked, for example. You want to see all your workstations that are down. So these are the different types of queries. Very simply put, these are very simple type of queries. So you've got, what are you looking for? The comparison and then the value. And then you can start creating more advanced queries by introducing the Boolean operators and wildcarding. So job stream name is called nightly batch and the status is failed. So if your job stream fails and you know that your nightly batch or backup, all those sorts of things, you want to query it so that it brings that up within the orchestration monitor. We'll also see what happens in the REST API v2 and what that means in a bit. So you can then start chaining this sort of stuff together to create more meaningful queries. for specific pieces of information within your environment. And that one at the bottom, FTA down, is an example that we'll use in the demo. So we want to see which FTAs are down. So if the active status is unlinked and job man is not up, or the FTA type is not the master domain manager. So you can see how quickly you can build up quite complex queries. So using that simple form to start with and then adding to it more and more and more until you get the really specific information that you want. So when you're in a very large environment, previously when you went to the monitor jobs, for example, and you've got page 1 of 300, you then had to put the filter in and keep refining that until you found the piece of information that you wanted. It became quite laborious. With this, you can create it once, use it many times, but to still get somebody else to do it. Okay, so just a few pieces of information. As we've spoken about, it's case sensitive. And if you're looking at stuff that's time dependent, so a job that ran between 2 and 3 in the morning on a Sunday during clock change, you can create that query, but it has to be an ISO 8601 format. So that just dictates the time format that you need to put into a query.
Query one thing my operators query all the time.
Yeah.
You just in the monitor, whether general that I want to know what the monitor is.
Yes.
I want to know what I'm trying this in, but I'm trying this one. And it always explains while it's all there. Having a simple way of articulating that statement would be much easier than going through the filters every time.
Yes. And of course, the good practice is always to do this in dev first, refine it, make sure that it all works, and then start applying it to your higher environments. And always start with the orchestration monitor, because that's the bit you can change on the fly to get the right information that you need. Once you've got the statement, you can then save it and let somebody else do it, or you can then take that exact same statement and then use it in the REST API. Okay, I won't go through all of these things, why you should use the orchestration monitor rather than the older monitor. It's new, sexy technology. It works. The most important thing about this is where all of the development work's going into, all the new features that are coming. So the environment that we've got here is 10.2.4. It's being upgraded to 10.2.5 next week. And the reason why it's being upgraded to 10.2.5 is because there's a specific feature in 10.2.5, which is the expiry date of your SSL certificates is shown only in the orchestration monitor. And new features, 10.2.6 and beyond, will all go into the orchestration monitor, not into the older monitor interface.
Yeah.
So
sooner or later it will be deprecated.
yes. You could recreate the workload dashboard today using the orchestration monitor rather than using the older monitor. That sounds like an idea, doesn't it, Marco? Somebody needs to raise that as an idea. Don't look at me. But yes, I mean, this is the way forward. Orchestration monitor. If you're at 10.2.4 or above, use it now. If you're not there yet, start learning or start reading up on it, because you will be using it at some point in the future, whether that's a 10.2, 10.3, 10.4, whether it's going to be called version 11, we just don't know. You can never tell with version numbers, can you? No?
Do it again, I'm sorry.
Oh, are we going to go 10.3, 10.4, 10.5, or are we just going to jump to 11? We don't know.
Right.
He does. We don't.
I think when we are done with the modifications level on 10.2, we land at 10.3.
Yes.
That's my assumption, but you never know.
Okay. So orchestration monitor is important.
Just an observation, I've just been looking at our dev environment. Going back to the DWC, it's even less space available in orchestration monitor than what it is under monitor workload. So if I look at workstations in monitor workload, the view is smaller, so I can get more on the page and it's using more of the page. Under orchestration monitor, I've got barely a quarter of my window to see the actual data that I want to see.
Yeah.
And the rest of it is
That's
just
been a
filled with.
complaint from other customers.
That needs to be
Screen
improved.
use is very poor.
Is that font size?
I've got to set the table to small as well. There's options on the table size. I've set it to small and it's
Screen-
so like you've got
screen
there.
use
Yeah,
is very
yeah.
poor.
But look, only that below that blue bar is what you want.
Really should be a pop out. They won't do it, but or something that takes over, unless you take over the whole screen.
I
Yeah.
don't need to know, that once I'm opened it, I don't give a toss about the preview. I'll
No.
make the preview if I need it.
You need to be able to drag that across.
Yeah, right, yeah, most of
That's
these
the
go-
way.
That collapsible.
Yeah, you make that collapsible and then make
Yes.
that. Because I've got, in dark dev environment, I've only got a few things. I added all of the possible columns, such as SSL port and everything else. Now I've got a great big scrolly across to try and I've got a scrolly bar on the right for a handful of workstations. It's
But what would you minimize? Would it be the
both.
black
both
column?
bits. I think I'd have
the first?
in fact, I might have a little.
Well, I think the black column needs to be
That
over
one you
the.
can get rid
The
of.
black one you can do.
I think it
You've got the
needs to
little
be able to
arrow.
Shrink and come back. It
Yeah.
doesn't let you do that.
The tree
You can
menu.
stretch it some and make it smaller, but it's kind of flaky. It should also be allowed to just like go away and come back.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I agree.
It's screen space. It's just poor design.
So, I think this brings us back to having the webinar to go through the usability piece and bring up, screen area, right, and feed that back to the user team. This should be on the list of things, right?
But in a view like this, where do you see the waste of
What?
space?
On the left.
Everything on the left,
Yeah.
this and the next one
And
as
that-
well.
And
And the
then,
bit across the top, that banner across the
Yeah.
top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you
Once
get
you've
more.
chosen it, you should be able to maximize that screen so that you can focus on the data.
You can't, Marco, you can't make that blue box there, the blue where all your columns bigger. There's no way to use more of the screen. So you've lost, half your screen. You can't go up, you can't go sideways.
So,
Yeah.
so I'll say in a lot of the IBM products, we've switched to React as the
Yeah, we're
front.
using React.
Yeah.
Do they use the same similar units? Because it seems
Yeah,
like.
so we need to revisit that. So, Ollie.
Because a lot of the other products.
There's just a few bugs in it.
I've just done a really simple one, like give me a health check on a workstation through Orchestrator. Run the health check, pop-up is transparent, so I can see the whole dashboard behind it, and then there's some writing on there around the health check it's performed. It's ineligible because it's overlaying the grey bar at the top.
Right.
The nuances of things like that will put
Should
us
be a
off.
way to hit it and it takes up all the screen here.
Yeah, or even just a pop-out.
Yeah.
It's actually a separate window. Yeah, but just
They're trying to
things
move
like
away
that.
from that, but yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's control.
Let's carry on. So yeah, you can see there's the tree view of the different folders, but then you've got the ability to save queries. So once you've created the query statement, you can then save it and allocate it to either yourself, a group, or to everyone.
I was playing with it earlier. Yes.
Can they be saved as widgets? Sorry, I've just joined back on after an hour away, but just caught the back end of this.
Saved as widgets? No, they're just saved as queries. So you'd have to go into the query tab and then you would see a list of those queries.
But again, that list is truncated, so you can't tell the full name of it.
Yeah.
We'll try that.
So I think there's a code behavior through some of the new panels that is being repeated, whether it's designer, whether it's the orchestrator, there's been philosophy applied
Yeah.
that just slightly flawed.
It's as though it's fixed field and it doesn't need to be or shouldn't be.
And ultimately, I mean, did you say that widgets in the future will be able to take those OQLs and put them in, run them as widgets on the dashboard itself directly? So my engineer, at the moment, we set up a widget, we do the filters, we put it on the dashboard, they can see all the stuff that's unlinked, they can see all the stuff that's in error, that kind of thing is there. Are we going to be replacing all that language? Because ultimately, we'll be using the OQL rather than just running what I would say the normal command command through the monitor workload kind of query statement. Yeah, this is what I want.
We should be able to save them as a data source, shouldn't we? That would be the best.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it should be saved as a data source and then associated with. Okay. And here's the good news, the really good news. Documentation on this stuff's actually very good.
Oh, an orchestration query.
Yeah.
Take it back now.
I'd strongly recommend you click on that link when you get the slides, and actually go and take a look yourself, because there are all of the different things you can do for jobs, job streams, workstations, resources, as well as examples of how to use it. There's stuff in the workload automation community site as well. But the other thing you can do, once you've got it working in your orchestration monitor, you can then do it in your database as well. The new version 2 interface. We'll look at that now.
Rob, a quick question from me. So this is DWC 1024, yeah?
Yes.
What engines does that support when looking at the complex filtering and things like that? Does it have to be a 1024 engine?
I would think yes.
Yeah, if you want the latest enhancements, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So, certainly, if you want to use the REST API, for example, it would have the engine would also have to be the same.
Okay, thank you.
Switches
So-
turns advanced off and turn this.
So when you look at the new Swagger UI, has anyone actually used the REST API in IWS in the past, the version 1
We're
interface?
starting to look at it now with ServiceNow integration, with end-to-end ServiceNow integration.
Ah.
We're terrified about the APIs because there is no facility to govern who can and can't get to it and how often they can get to it. We see it as a major.
The security is okay, though.
There is a role for...
Yeah.
Yeah. So the security against the actual use of the API, because when we raised a case to ask this question, and we were told that the security just does the same as you would be able to do through the DWC.
Yeah, indeed. So if they can't do certain things in the DWC, they can't do it in the API either. So that's how we use it.
That's fine. But a user hitting the DWC can only click a request so often. Coming through the API, I can hit you on a straight loop and just bring down TWS.
Yeah, that's also our concern. That's why we do it through an API gateway to limit those costs.
Yes. Yeah, unfortunately, you do have to front end it to stop.
Is there any documentation for good ways of doing that? Because that's a journey we're about to start on.
The answer is API Connect, but
There's no documentation, no.
Yeah.
Not yet, Mark.
You can start one.
yeah.
Gateway.
No, there is a role for using the REST API,
API gateway.
but then the credentials you provide to it also is the same as your DWC one.
Because the user, let's say the user has access to certain things. in the
What we'll look
DWC,
at is
they do
the
same things in
V2
API.
Yes.
API and why
And execute that
OQL
command
is
over
important
a million times.
Create denial of service attack.
to this, because
Kill-
in version
it's gonna
1,
Kill the DWC.
Yeah. You
Right,
would
yeah,
have
I
to.
think we're talking.
okay. Yeah, in version 1, say for example you wanted to resubmit a job, you would have to query it to get the job ID and then submit based on the job ID. You can use OQL to query it to get the job by name and then submit it. Or there is for rerun. So you create a query. If my job has failed, okay, you've got recovery and all those sorts of things, and you can retry. But if you wanted to do it externally, there is a rerun option. Use orchestration query language to see which job has failed and then resubmit it through a single command rather than having to do it through 2 commands, which is what you'd have to do in version 1. And typically you'd then have to script it at the front end.
That's what we're currently looking at now, Probal. We're getting that job ID. So what we do through the likes of OBM, we don't just rerun, we check the status of the job as part of a script. So we're finding some challenges with getting ServiceNow to rerun jobs. We will always have checks in the background, but that sounds like a simpler solution on the rerun part if you can use the OQL stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's
Okay.
Got some upgrading to do.
Are you saying that if the same user uses APIs or DWC doesn't have the same
No.
role?
Let's say the same user, the user X has rights to do so many things in the DWC.
Yes.
Applies also to the API,
Yes.
right? So that user could write a API command and just execute it forever.
Like thousands of-
Submit.
Yes, thousands of times.
Just
and
put
that
it in
would
a loop.
bring down the service.
Okay.
I mean, probability is low, but it comes back, I guess, to a degree, then comes back to how our whole ITSM process works. How do we protect the request going through? How do we control that change and control the volume?
Yeah.
Because
I mean, how can you expect that to be somehow managed into the API?
That way, if somebody else has that documented anywhere that we
How
can copy.
to
Yeah.
use an API gateway?
Yeah.
Okay. No,
So I was just bringing that up.
no,
It's not really an IWA.
Oh, I understand now.
Yeah. Okay. So within version 2 interface, you've got everything you can do in version and the new features to include orchestration query language, and you can test all this out. So once you've got it working in your orchestration monitor, you can take the query string that you created, put it into the appropriate REST API v2 option. So in this case, it's job streams, and we've got job stream name like, and then anything that starts demo 10. And you'll see that it limits the number of things that it comes back with in order to protect the back-end database. Notice that in version 1, limit by default 1,000, whereas in version 2, it's 10,000. So does that mean that version 2 is a far more efficient REST API than version 1? I guess it must be.
Yeah.
But you can limit it to whatever you want. If you want just a single piece of information to come back, limit it to 1, and the first one it finds is what it will return. And then once you've created the query, you don't have to change the modified value bit. As soon as you start typing your own query in, it automatically switches it to modified value. Because what it actually provides are 4 or 5 pre-built queries that, quite frankly, are useless. So you would always use your own one instead. And once you've done that, you press execute. It tells you the equivalent curl command that would be run, and the URL that it's actually calling. And then response code 200 means it's been executed successfully. And then a response body is, in this case, it's in JSON format. So you can see that it's returned 9 job streams, and there's the first one. What this means is that using OQL with REST API, so you've got the curl command, and it's looking for a specific piece of information. You can create something that's generic and integrate that with your own application. And this is what a number of organizations are doing with ServiceNow. So populating REST API queries. So in this example, we're looking for things starting demo 10. You could replace that with a variable within ServiceNow. So you can create this once and use this for any type of job stream that you want, or any type of job with a different call. So it's create once, use many times within a front end that isn't IWS, because a lot of organizations are moving away from allowing their users to have direct access to IWS and using ServiceNow or an equivalent service management tool instead. But ServiceNow just seems to be the one that every large organization seems to be moving towards.
Does that principally then allow us, okay, if we could set up a request process in ServiceNow to say, I want to run an ad hoc an ad hoc job with this variable embedded in the script, and then get it through ServiceNow, and that ServiceNow approval is required as part of that process before it's action.
Yes. So you could use
some of the service. You could do that with some of the self-service
Yeah,
now too, but
I
probably
guess,
not to that detail.
but it comes back to me. For me, self-service, yes, we could do it, but I wouldn't have the ITSM control either.
No, you want service now. So it's easier to do the service now. That's what a lot of customers are doing. Building, or they built their own custom front end.
But then
a lot of customers have done that.
Then the fact that you've built it once and you can use it many times, we're doing a get here. Get information. We can post information to IWS as well. So if you want one of your operators to be able to do this, you create this, put it as a widget within ServiceNow, that they can literally press a button based on an event So if you've got an event in ServiceNow that says this job has failed, the reason why it's failed is because of something else. When that something else is fixed, your operator can then rerun the job without having to contact your AWS administrators.
We do a lot of examples. We do a lot of scenarios where something failed overnight, application reports come out, teams come out, because they've got to run an alternative again. They would do it at the back end rather than whole separate manual yeah,
good. So I have customers now that do they do their syntax check everything and before you get submitted to IWA.
So yes, this allows you to create your own front end so that you don't have to use the DWC. So and previously you could do it with version 1 of the REST API interface, but it was quite cumbersome. There was a lot of coding you had to do, a lot of scripting at the front end in order for a tool like ServiceNow to be able to do that. Now, with orchestration query language, you can create it once, give it to the ServiceNow administrator or developers, and they can build that functionality into the front end and use it again and again and again. So you can use that for jobs, you can use it for job streams, workstations, and resource. Okay.
One is we've been thinking about is building a service dashboard. So you could use those REST APIs to populate your service dashboard.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Much easier.
Okay. So in summary,
Prabal, I had a question on your last slide. Where you're showing workstation ID, what does that represent?
that's the unique identifier within the database for that workstation. So everything is referenced by a number as well as a name. So just like you've got job stream ID, you've got job stream name, you've got a workstation ID and a workstation name. So all of that information is provided within the REST API.
This is all internal to IWA though, right? So
yes,
if some other system like ServiceNow is using this, they would still have to access our database to be able to figure this out, or is it just a matter of referencing it in our database to be able to make the connection of what what's currently down? One of the problems that we keep running into is that we don't have external references for other tools that we want to use to hit the API, and we've been playing around with it, trying to find identifiers that other tools can use. So if we want to use, for example, AIOps instead of ServiceNow, but we keep running into this, and we think we can do this, but we've been playing with it, trying to figure out the best way to do that, and we haven't.
Yeah, so if you're using an external tool, you can do things by name or by unique identifier. It does exactly the same thing. So everything that's referenced within the database is referenced by a unique ID, but then that's associated with a name. So that's the same for, you can see here for job streams, for folder IDs, workstation ID. There's a huge amount of information that the REST API provides out of IWS that can be used. I think 90% of it isn't necessary for tools like ServiceNow, but it's better to provide it and not need it rather than not provide it and need it.
Yeah, okay, I agree. I just want to make sure that what I was seeing kind of aligned with what we saw earlier.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So how you manipulate the data it provides you with everything. how you interpret that and how you manipulate it is down to whatever tool has requested it. Okay.
It has to interpret the REST API response, doesn't it?
Okay, so in summary, we've seen the orchestration query language. It works with the orchestration monitor, REST API v2, and at some point in the future, OCLI. And the 4 things you can do with it are related to jobs, job streams, workstations, and resources. Again, that's going to increase as well over time. Okay. I'm conscious of time. Okay, we'll try and finish at 4 o'clock. Let's see it in action. As you can see, I like living dangerously, so I log in as WLA user to do everything. Why not? Okay, so we've got our workload dashboard as before. So this is an environment that's sitting in IBM Cloud. We go to the orchestration monitor, and we can see job streams. Let's start with the job streams. Go to save queries, and yeah, it does truncate the information, but if you hover over it, yeah,
Your long list name.
it is. So we'll look at the job streams with the name demo 10 in. We run it, and we get a subset of the previous screen. So we can see that there are 9 instances for job streams. Let's go to workstations, and as we created in the slides, FTA down, there's not a huge number there, but you can see that there's one. It just happens to be the MDM that's down. We're running off the backup master in this environment, but we can see the saved query, and again, you create once, and then you can give this to multiple administrators that have access to the orchestration monitor.
Problem, I'm assuming looking at that, you can't configure what's pulled back, or you can't configure the columns, or it's just the default return.
Yeah, you can. The dots on the right-hand side. There, and I've done that, so I've just done that. So I think he's on about the column returns. On the bottom right, you've got the dots, you've got table configuration.
Just you can do any
work, yeah. Over on your right.
Sorry, yeah. Mine's
3 dots.
Yeah.
Oh, you have to save the query then.
You go to table configuration.
But you can actually do it in the query string itself by saying whether you want it ascending, descending based on a particular column.
I think it's on about the column, so you haven't got things like SSL port and things like that. If you click on the table configuration, there.
Yeah, if we take job streams as an example,
you can then choose what's displayed.
Yeah. So you can do by SSL.
You can't change the order by the looks.
The column order.
No. Just what's actually displayed.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And then with jobs, we can see even in this environment there's 151 jobs. But if we want to look at FTP jobs alone, there are 15. Now, if we do the same thing in the REST API, which happens to be hiding behind. Come on, out the way.
Problem, can you just hit the 3 dots there for me, please? I'm just interested to see if we can see So one of the key things for us is job elapsed time. That's not there by default in DWC. Yeah, so actual duration there, isn't it? So, right, okay.
Yeah. Okay. So if we look at the REST API v2, we can look at the jobs in plan, get the information, and what we're looking for are FTP jobs, just exactly the same query. And if we execute that against the database, we can see the response code 200, the curl command that's actually been run, and we can see that the count is 15, which is what we had within the orchestration monitor as well. But the amount of information that's actually passed back is enormous. It just goes on and on and on. So I was saying 90% of it, whatever application you integrate it with, will probably bin 90% of the information because it doesn't need it. But IWS responds with every single piece of information about that job within the database. Same for job streams, workstations, and resources.
Where's this? Is this a different tool? This is part DWC to look at now, is it?
The Swagger UI.
That is what it is.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
I'm not familiar with this.
standard part of the product.
Right.
And this is the bit that you use to integrate IWS with other applications. But as they were saying on the call, if you've got an application front-ending IWS, how do you stop that application from putting thousands of requests in for the same piece of information? You can't. That's why you need some sort of intermediary that detects that and stops it.
We're taking the action to write something up that says like how would you address that?
Yeah.
That was a quick run through of how to use OQL at 10.2.4, both within the orchestration monitor and also within the REST API. And this is why I think OQL's pretty good, is that when you're integrating other applications into IWS, you want to be able to do it via query rather than coding, which becomes really cumbersome. Okay. I'm conscious of time. We're now at 4 o'clock. Does anyone have any questions? Is everyone still awake?
I think today's been really, really valuable. It's been a really good conversation all day long.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll second that.